disclosure about space vessels and SSP experiences from the Secret Space Program Group. The Secret Space Program Group is disclosing information about the various space vessels that the SSP assets and experiencers in this group have remembered seeing or being on while in the different SSP groups/factions. All the various group member names have been redacted and photo images have also been removed in order to protect the privacy, safety, and anonymity of those who have made comments in the posts that are presented in this presentation. Different interiors on ships. Maybe these pictures will bring some memories. So in this group post, we are exploring the various memory recalls of the group members about their SSP asset memories concerning the various ships in the SSP groups like Notchwaffen, planetary corporations, just as a few examples, etc. This is a workstation with a meeting area. I know this sounds odd, but if it's Notchwaffen, this room would have floor coverings. Don't know why. The screen at the end is also that, not a window. That looks like the machine they use to send us back to when they initially took us. This is an example of an SSP age regression and 0-point time dilation device which returns SSP assets back to the time frame when they were taken for service into the SSP programs. The age regression device also blank slates the SSP assets so their minds are wiped of all the SSP memories that they ever had. Age regression technology involves the component of altering space-time matter and also reversing the aging process so that SSP assets end up being young again when they are returned to the time frame before their SSP asset service officially began. The Secret Space Program, June 24th. This is a bridge on a small ship. This is a bridge I remember. Yeah, I remember it too. I was on it last night in Dead Space 3. My memories are from a much bigger ship. Was there a huge battle in space recently between 15th to 16th of June? I have such vivid pictures from it. I've heard about that from several people. Last week, over Russia, a large meteorite fell. Too often such meteorites began to burn. Real spaceships don't have windows in the bridge, even if it's small. This is one of the more modern workstations. Very modern. One of the Secret Space Program group members has memory recall of sitting in a Neuralink smart chair, which is part of the Planetary Corporation's spacecraft. This Neuralink smart chair allows the pilot to interface with the nanotechnology in the smart chair and with the mind psychically project thoughts in order to pilot the craft and also interact with the craft's supercomputer systems or holographic interfaces. Black Ops, special classified military, and other aerospace contractors have been able to reverse engineer extraterrestrial craft that have the smart chairs, allowing the mind to psychically link with this smart technology in order to pilot the spacecraft with someone's thoughts. Two images that are on the bottom left and top right are smart chairs, which were disclosed by Emery Smith on Cosmic Disclosure, Season 11, Episode 6, on June 26, 2018. Black Ops military and aerospace contractors working on reverse engineering an extraterrestrial craft underneath military underground bases in a vacuum-sealed secure facility. The two above images come from Emery Smith disclosing this information in Cosmic Disclosure during Season 11, Episode 6 on June 26, 2018. Tesseract Project. SSP assets walking on a platform ramp towards a teleportation portal to transport them to another part of the planet. Wormhole energy-based portal technology. Tesseract Project. Scientists working on activating time travel and teleportation portals in order to transfer ships and crew to different points in time or somewhere interdimensionally. Corridor in a larger ship. They do seem to avoid right angles for some reason. Straight angles are not natural and not practical. They hurt more when your ship decelerates rapidly. Definitely. But the larger ships, you never felt it. Oh, and I remember the designs all avoided direct light. They always had diffuse light, lighting up some non-reflective surface. I remember they had floating lights made of sound. Made of sound? Question mark? Maybe a portable light? Question mark? I mean, you could do that. Star in a bottle. There were panels in the walls that would produce light from sound. I remember them clearly on the Kruger mothership and on Mars. Oh, I understand. I wasn't aware of how the light was made. So, if you remove the spotlights at the top, these seen, it'd be about right. Oh, something else. The large vessels, Aurora class, etc., have a visual guide which travels along the wall beside you on a display hidden in the walls, talks to you and shows you where to go. The children have cute, child-friendly versions. Military have more serious icons. These are simulated personalities connected to the vessel mainframe. These personalities could even give you a tour of the vessel. They were one of my favorite parts of the big ships. Those guides even adapt to your language or your species. Yes, very true. Why does this photo look so familiar? I recognize where it is. Most of the art in this group, notable exception, comes from our founder. It's their original CGI art. And some of it is from video games or movies. They are soft disclosure, so they really do look like the real deal. So you may have played the game or seen the movie. Or the members of this group, you were really there in the place they are referring to. Between you and me, this is what a smaller corridor on the Kruger space station looked like. This was also what they looked like on the mothership I was stationed on before I was taken onto Kael's spy ship. Are they the Dark Empire ships? What Dark Empire? Oh, that's the name I use for the Orion traders who sided with the Dark Dracos. Are you referring to the German fleet? They tend to have more of a gray tone rather than the stark white. The ones who started the Orion Civil War. There are worse things out there than Draco. At least they wanted to build an empire instead of destroying everything in their path. I'm not talking all Dracos by any means. I'm talking about the Dark Dracos who joined forces with the Dark Orions. That's who we fought during the Orion Civil War. There were two factions who were fighting in Draconis. The Royals wanted to stay pure. The folks in the coup wanted to use black goo. The coup won. The Royals were exiled to Earth and are incarnated as humans now, stuck in the same soul trap as humans. So, if you are referring to the black goo folks, then yes, they are pretty bad. The majority of Draco are about like our own human elites as far as service to self. Are the Draconian Royals still on Earth? Question mark. The real ones, yes, they are trapped here along with the regular humans. They are no longer in Draco bodies. So, from memories, I'm an Orion leader. Would that help in finding them? Question mark. Would finding them make a difference? Question mark. Is it possible to find them? Question mark. I've found several myself. As long as they are trapped in human bodies, it won't make a difference. Many have been abducted to use in the SSP. There's got to be something that can be done. No one is coming to rescue us or this planet. It's time for action. But where to even begin? We begin by withdrawing consent to be ruled and then defending it. There should be a whole lot more of us than them. We have surrendered our power for so long we have forgotten it's ours. Demand justice. Once we withdraw our consent and demand justice, we will have help. When it comes to Orionites, it depends on what race of Orionites and their internal politics. Well, look at EM. Latest episode, same type of corridor as this white one on the ship in a dome-like facility deep within the underground bases. We, the SSP experiencers, know just as much as Emery Smith because we have been in the SSP projects and other Black Ops programs. I recognize the white corridors, with the white pot lights very typical on larger ships, with the off-white colors. From my memory recall, I remember being on a ship that had the circular portholes in the ceiling for lighting, and also the air cooling and heating system would come from the ceiling portholes. It was a Planetary Corporation's ship. I got the idea from that memory to try and install the Unico high-velocity air conditioning system in my house. Basically, the system runs through the attic of the house, and circular ports are cut out in the ceiling throughout the house where small ductwork is wired in with an HRV system that lets in fresh air from the outside and vents out the hot air from the house. I checked the Unico system, and it's too expensive to get for my house, but the idea is workable and came to me from SSP memory recall. A bridge with a mid-sized ship. It appears to be privateers or pirates. This is the size of a bridge on the smaller long-ranged vessels, just one floor, no real recreational facilities, just basics with weaponry and accommodation. Christmas lights are a nice touch. So is the glass. Sorry, folks. It is easy to see who has not seen the real deal. CICs are not windowed nor near the exterior. Only viewports to be found are on the sides and accessible in station holding conditions. If you hit a rock big enough, they can cut the shield and plating. Bridges are for Navy ships and sci-fi wet dreamers. You are correct about there being no windows in the area where the command centers are, by whatever name you give them. Between you and me, I was Navy out there. I can only tell you what I recall. Also, most modern deep space craft use field propulsion to do with having windowed cockpits. The craft is protected by the inertial nullification field, what is otherwise known as electromagnetic fields, which repel and protect against asteroids, meteorites, and other space junk that is out there, or any other big objects in space. So there are shieldings around the ships. Basically, it's like a tractor beam that repels the ship from being hit, even if it might have windows somewhere. And the windows are also made of specialized material that is non-destructible. It's basically like having bulletproof windows, which most typical cars have on Earth. Just as a side note. Which you should know, most who have been out there know it's not possible for one person to know or have experienced everything. I'm starting to suspect that your presence here is to be disruptive and not productive. The first big ships were built much like a standard submarine. Early ones were nuke-powered. Although it was only the US ships which used nuclear subs, early Dark Fleet used them as well. I remember being on a cigar-shaped SSP craft and also on frigate Trident ships. The anti-grav engines with the mercury vortex also produced a lot of radiation. The crews of those early ships had horrific deaths from the radiation. Yeah, sad. The Terran applications of the tech had casualties. These were not only paid for with human cyborgs, but with human guinea pigs. And if the newest incarnation of the space fleet fails to honor them, may they be cursed by the ghosts. I think that folks like me have had follow-up visits, taking scoop mark samples to check the longer-term effects. The narrative was alien greys did it, to study us. Load of crap. I had them all the time between late teens and late 30s, early 40s. Now they are just round scars. Cigar-shaped craft, CSC. I knew they'd made Andromeda-type craft, which are cigar-shaped, but they weren't converted subs, though. Curiously, though, the ranks in the ICC Interplanetary Corporate Conglomerate, or otherwise known as the planetary corporations and other terrestrial forces, are naval. In Notchedwaffen, the ranks were Air Force. Could just be the branches that I'd come across too. Dark Fleet cigar ships, Notchedwaffen, Trident-class frigate, and other cigar-shaped forms of these craft. And these had started out in the beginning with the Dark Fleet as using the submarine type of a shape to build the cigar craft, and then they streamlined the format, and now it's very smooth and elongated for the shape of the cigars, and it's very useful out in space flight because these cigar-shaped craft can easily maneuver out in space, anywhere out in space, and they're carrier ships, they're cruise ships, they're basically science vessels as well as long flight exploration ships that the Dark Fleet Notchedwaffen often utilizes. Here are more examples of the Dark Fleet cigar ships Notchedwaffen And here we show you basically some of the carrier ships out in deep spaceport where they're docking, loading and unloading cargo. And you can also see some of the Nachtwaffen colonies, city colonies that they've built out, and the Nachtwaffen cigar ships basically maneuvering about in the city colony on an off-world planet outside the solar system, outside the Milky Way galaxy even. So these cigar-shaped craft are very large, and they can carry a lot of cargo as cargo ships, cruise ships, long flight, long distance exploration ships. Basically, these craft are built for long distance duration flight out in space for like years on end to travel out in space, and they're very sturdy craft. And this, again, like it's been said before, the shape, the elongated cigar shape, it's very ergonomical for space flight. Nachtwaffen cigar-shaped battle cruisers. So the cigar-shaped ships and these large cruisers, they are outfitted with different types of energy beam weaponry and plasma cannons. So because these ships are part of large fleets, they do have a huge contingent of weaponry on them. They're basically outfitted for huge battles when they're traveling out in the large fleets of human-run Nachtwaffen officers, superiors, and sometimes extraterrestrial ambassadors that are reptilian insectoid hybrids or full-on reptilian Dracos. So these Dark Fleet battle cruisers are outfitted out for blood, basically. When they are doing battle, their Dark Fleet is ruthless. They're not known for kindness or compassion. They don't treat their officers that well because there's a lot of cruelty in Nachtwaffen, and there's a lot of torture, and there's zero compassion. If you misbehave or, you pull rank and disobey orders, you will be jettisoned out of the airlock or beaten almost half to death, and then you'll be placed in the regeneration tank and revived. If you're useful to your superiors on these battle cruisers, if you're not useful to them and you're low rank officer, they will kill you and just jettison you out of the airlock, and that's it. You're dead. You don't come back. You don't come back for a second chance. You're not returned to Earth eventually. So they do space people. They space you out of an airlock if you're no longer useful to them, or you're too disobedient and don't follow orders well, or if you go outside of rank and do your own thing. That's highly disapproved of by the upper command echelons in Nachtwaffen. So you must always behave well and follow orders. Otherwise, you're useless to them, and they won't want you anymore. They'll just discard you because you're not of any use, and you're too stubborn. You're too stupid. You don't follow orders. You're just a malcontent causing trouble for them, and they don't like trouble, so they'll get rid of you. On behalf of the Secret Space Program Group, thank you for taking the time to listen to this presentation and bring out full disclosure.